It's open enrollment, and you don't just want health insurance. You want health insurance that gets you. At Florida Blue, you want health insurance that gets you. At Florida Blue, you want health insurance that gets you.
All right. Welcome everyone to another open discussion and various topics class, the first one for the new year 2022. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and were able to spend time with their families. Let's make sure everything here is set up and ready to go. And let's begin with reciting the prayer for spiritual workers, and then we'll go right into our Q&A session. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. All right, once again, welcome everyone to another open discussion and various topics class. Thank all of you for coming back and joining us again this year. As per usual, feel free to ask any questions or pose any comments you may have in the chat, and we will do our best to answer and address those for you. Or if you are joining us via Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature and ask your questions audibly. And do let us know how your holidays went. We took a break at the end of December, so I'm happy to see everyone slowly coming back. Also, do let us know who's joining us today. Do we have any questions or comments?
Joanne, can you hear noise in the background?
Yeah, like a squeaking noise.
Is it really loud?
It's not too bad, but it is kind of high pitched and it comes in and out.
All right, I'm at my office. They had to do some work in here.
So any questions or comments? I don't have anything prepared for today.
What was the last thing we were going over when in the last meeting?
I do not remember. Let me check and see what else we do. We were looking at the chakras and the corresponding realms. I think we were discussing how the movement of Kundalini up Sushumna progresses us from the realms of basic man to advanced man to an adept and to a master. And looking at the realms of the masters and the realms of life after death. This is the diagram we were looking at last class. We were discussing the realms, the lower astral realms, basic and general astral realms, and then the high etheric realms. And we're also looking at the levels of development through the states of consciousness. I don't remember where we left off. We got through that.
These were the only diagrams we was using?
I think we left off on this diagram. There were others. I think we were going to look more deeply into the 10 senses and this one. I don't remember if we read through this one or not. I think we're going to save that for this time.
I gave you the latest stuff on the 10 systems, right?
Is it this one?
I guess it was that.
I remember reading this, yeah.
It was some other, it was the more graphic diagrams.
The Sabda bodies. Set in the 7 chakras, which is the 10 senses of men, table 2, which is this one I have up now. Most recent 10 senses one I have.
I thought I sent you something more than that.
Don't. See, the last thing I received in regards to diagrams was October 24th. It was the Sabda bodies, the 7 chakras, and the 10 senses. I have a question here.
Mhm.
Do you have a schedule for all of the mystic holidays? For example, the recognition of the great spiritual workers and their deeds on specific days of the year? And what are some of the main events that happen in human history that we recognize as a holiday?
Mm. Hold on for a minute. Yeah, go ahead. We celebrate, we commemorate certain days with their society, and most organizations do. You can get a list of those. We can send you a list of those commemorations, what we call the holy days of the year. Just email us and we can send you that. You want to add anything that to doing?
People are saying the background noise is very loud on your end.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My workers, they finishing up on my office. I'm sorry about that.
Any other questions? Switch my screen share.
Check your email. Have you seen that one? I just sent?
I believe I have. Let me download it. Instances. Are you guys planning on doing a meetup in Miami this year? What do you mean by meetup? Do you mean like a conference seminar, or do you mean resuming our regular weekly in-person meetings? Just to see everyone in person. Oh, Charlie, that's kind of you. I would like to. I would like to have either like a big event where like a conference, everybody comes out and we spend a few days studying and practicing together, or even to resume our regular meetings, but it all really depends on really the situation with the pandemic and how we can get everyone back together. But if there's enough interest and enough of people requesting it, we can put together maybe a seminar or two, and maybe a couple this year, where we invite everyone to come out for a weekend or even for a day or two, and go over a couple of topics. Have a few pranayama mantra practice sessions together. It all depends. So I'll say it like this: if the interest is there, then you guys make enough of a demand for it, then we'll do it. So there, that's my answer. I don't know if Nehemiah, if you want to add something to that.
Yeah, I agree as well. If there's enough interest, then we can plan and do something. Did you see what I emailed you? I emailed another document.
See the other one. I'll just put up the.
I think this is the most updated one. I think. I don't know. I don't know if I showed you the updated one.
Yes, I've seen this one. Yes.
It looks similar, but the other one is a little different. I think.
Okay. So understanding the withdrawal of senses from the consciousness, pratyahara, mapping out the 10 senses.
Yeah, I know you have that one. I think this one right here is the most latest one.
What is psychic development when the physical and actual senses, sense organs merge? Okay, I see there's more people have joined us, so welcome to our open discussion, the first one for this new year, 2022. Feel free to ask any questions or pose any comments you have in the chat. Or if you're also joining us via Zoom, you can use the chat there, or you can use the raise hand feature. Ask your questions audibly. On your screen, you should see a diagram talking about the physical and astral senses, or the psychic development. Last time we took a look at the senses, well, we took a look at the chakras and their corresponding realms. And we also looked at the levels of development as Kundalini moves up Sushumna. No, up and down Sushumna, but up Sushumna. As it goes from each chakra and the levels of operation of levels of conscious operation that the individual is acting upon as they move a vehicle of consciousness up Sushumna, from basic man, advanced man to adept, advanced adept, master, and so forth. And we did mention that we'll go more into more detail regarding the senses. So here's this diagram here. I'll go into that. We'll look at that in a second. Also have another diagram here, understanding the withdrawal of senses from the consciousness. This withdrawing the senses diagram, it might be, well, let me not guess. Let me look at the shared folder. And if they're not in the shared folder, Google Drive folder, then I will upload them so you can study and review them. And I think we'll look at those. We'll work through these diagrams next week and maybe the following week, or maybe the rest of this month. I would also like to revisit a lecture series that, well, according to the outlines in 2012, but I do believe you might gave it again a few years back, or maybe my dates are just running together. But it was some time ago, you might gave a series of classes on spiritual healing and techniques, spiritual techniques and energy manipulation. And I would like to revisit that series this year, because I would kind of like to add that to the theme for this year and really get, you guys, we've given you quite a bit of theory and quite a lot of practices to do, both prayer and healing techniques. But I would like to build up a band of spiritual healers, both contact and remote, so that we can incorporate this potent technique of being of service to those around us and throughout the world and even across the realms, and give us an extra tool that we can use to help us deepen our understanding and our practice in our own spiritual development and manipulation, not only of our own karma, but the karma of humanity as a whole. This will run in tandem with the other topics and series we have going, for example, like the study sessions, which is going to, I think I mentioned that before, it's going to evolve into a audiobook series and an actual book study series. So the study sessions won't just be me coming on reading chapter by chapter every Friday, but the idea is to pre-record those readings into a bit more professionally produced audiobook format, and then having those available. And then the study sessions will come back and be an in-depth study of the material that was read in the audiobooks, to be available for everyone for free, or at least on YouTube and so forth, or you can download them later. We update our website. And then we will, so I'll stop doing the book studies during the open discussions, and then or during the Sunday lecture series. So that will also evolve, not go back to how we had before, where it was just my lecture on the subject, but we'll see how we can adapt that to both a more online and in-person engagement, so we can continue with the lecture series on Sundays, have the study sessions going on Fridays, have the audiobooks available for you to download and listen to as we move through most of the text, if not all the text, in the IMKC library. And then we'll also have other engagements like here. Hopefully we can get a group of people together. We can have a spiritual healing band for both remote and in person. And so the idea for this year is engagement. We'd like to engage with everyone more practices, more development, more service, and really employing all this theory and practice that we've been graciously given by Nehemiah and the other teachers and the ancient teachings. So do keep your ear open for a couple of messages and emails and announcements that will be coming out throughout this year. I do want to go back to that spiritual healing. I think there's a couple of them actually. There was a series done by Nehemiah, and then we had a private series done on specifically on the healing technique designed by Dr. George King. In the text available from the Aether Society entitled "You Too Can Heal," goes into great detail and actually gives that practice. And I do believe we had a minister from the society come out and give us a lecture series on the healing technique as well. I don't know if that's on YouTube or not. I can go back and check and confirm that. And I would like to revisit that series this year and really build up a team of spiritual healers that will be ready at a moment's notice, so that if any of you require spiritual healing or would like to have healing sent out to friends or family or to anyone, you could send those requests to us, or you can send them to the Aether Society. And as a group, as a spiritual body, we can come together and send out healing in conjunction with our regular 12 blessing services, in conjunction with the Operation Prayer Power that the Aether Society hosts weekly, just so that there are more individuals manipulating this energy and participating in the positive manipulation of the karma of humanity. Okay, so keep abreast for that. Oh, okay, looks like I answered that question. Thanks, Charlie. Are there any questions or comments or anything you want to add, Nehemiah? I went off on a tangent there. Sorry about that.
No, not really. I mean, I think there is a question on the chat. I think Charlie just asked a question.
Honestly, I have a question, but answer. Yeah, well, I'll read the question. I have a question about the healing aspect, Reiki healing, similar to what's taught here in terms of practical application. If yes, do we have a book that gives step-by-step application? So yes, that was the You Too Can Heal.
Yeah.
Let me.
The You Too Can Heal book, published in the 1970s. Dr. King gave some newsletters on different aspects of healing from the 50s up through the 60s. And in the 1970s, he actually wrote a book and published it. Probably one of the best healing books, I think, that's published. There's other healing books that's good too, but I think he gave the most practical methods.
Okay, here you can see on the Aether Society website, there's a text, You Too Can Heal. You can get the physical book, or you can also, it says available as ebook as well. And they also have a page here dedicated to spiritual healing, as well as some videos. So if you go to their website, under this tab here, Discover Cosmic Truth, and then there's a part here dedicated to spiritual healing. Click on that link and read through the information here, and it goes into the technique devised by Dr. George King that made spiritual healing available to everyone. And you can also pick up a copy of the text as well. And we have several lectures on not just spiritual healing, but the manipulation of energy, really all the techniques we've been taught in prayer, and the manipulation and movement of energy is also utilized in in spiritual healing. Any other questions? If there's no other questions, let's take a look at the nadis and the senses of man to continue our discussion from last time. Give me a minute, let me upload this to our shared folder. Actually, I now have to make a 2022 folder. All right, so if you look in the email announcement or in the description on Zoom, and description on YouTube, you will see a web address to our Google Drive shared folder. Just take you to a Zoom folder, and then you should see a new folder there called 2022, and in that folder, you will find this diagram that we're currently looking at. And if you have any questions or comments as we're going through the diagram, feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll answer those for you. So what is psychic development? It is when the physical and astral senses and sense organs merge. So on the left-hand side here, we'll go for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Number 1, the spirit of man is considered to be the divine spark of God, which is the real self. 2, the spirit of man then creates a soul, which becomes the body for the spirit and the traveling aspect of the spirit. Number 3, the soul then creates the auric body, which becomes the body of the soul. Number 4, the auric body, being the body of the soul, is a cosmic body that is virtually indestructible. The auric body is designed to draw its power from the cosmos because it is connected to the universe via the soul. It's designed from the Shakti modified by the soul. Number 5, the auric body operates as the miniature atmosphere of substance for the many aspects of the soul, which is the mental bodies, the chakra system, the Kundalini power, the nadi system, the prana bodies, etheric body, astral body, and the physical body. Okay. So what was just covered there very briefly in those 5 points is the evolutionary process from spirit down to the auric body. And if you recall, in our study of the text, The Ancient Language of the Soul, we went into great detail about each one of these points and even dived further into the auric body, the chakra system, as we took a study of mantra, being the ancient language of the soul. So it should not be new to anyone. If it is, then you can go back and review our many classes on the mystic constitution of man, as well as take a look at the ancient language of the soul text, which is the first published work by Mr. Nehemiah Davis. I read the entire text in the study sessions playlist, so you can take a look at that one and follow along to get more information and to go through that book. So we have the known mystic physical senses and the known mystic astral senses. The known mystic senses are, starting off on the first 5 on the left that many of us are most familiar with, smelling, taste, sight, touch, and hearing. And the next group of 5 is movement, excretion, generations, grasping, and speech. So as mystically, the senses are all the ways in which we interact with our environment. So looking at this like movement, excretion, generation, why are those senses? Well, those are ways in which we interact with our environment. And those are physical senses, and there are both astral and etheric counterparts to those senses, or ways in which we interact with our environments, be it on the gross physical realms, the astral realms, and the etheric realms. So the astral bodies also have smelling, taste, sight, touch, hearing, movement, excretion, generation, grasping, and speech. And I think generation, okay, speech. Now, when we combine, say, for example, physical hearing and astral hearing, that's where we get the psychic sense of clear audience. Physical sight with the astral sight, we get clairvoyance. Physical touch with astral touch, clairsentience, or the practice of psychometry, and so forth. It's the merging of those senses that lead to basic psychic senses, and more advanced psychic senses is when we merge those physical astral senses with the etheric counterparts. And the sense organs, which correspond to those senses, smelling with the nose, taste with the tongue, the mouth, sight, the eyes, touch, skin, hearing, the ears, movement, the feet, excretion, the anus, generation, the genitals, grasping, and manipulating the hands, and speech with the voice. And the same with the astral body as well. Those equal as well, psychic senses. One thing I want to point out here, some of you may have experienced it as well, is that on the astral level, I'll say, these senses are not tied to a specific organ. So for example, you can smell color. You can smell color, you can taste color. If you're ever projected in astral sense, you'll be able to see that. You can receive sensory information in ways that you may not be familiar with on the gross physical realm. And even here on the physical realm, you can touch something and taste it just by touching it, or you can taste something just by looking at it. So don't get too caught up on the idea that I can only smell through my nose or only taste through my tongue. Do you want to add something, Nehemiah?
You could do the same, like you said. I agree. You could do the same thing on the physical realm. We just unaware of it. You have to train your physical senses or heighten your physical senses in order to pick up on those subtleties.
Mm-hmm. So to follow off of that, to train ourselves, how do we do that? And that's kind of what is addressed in the very next part here, the mechanics of psychic development. Through the use of the 8 limbs of Raja Yoga, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, concentration, contemplation, and meditation. If you remember from our lectures, well, not our lectures, or Nehemiah's lectures on Raja Yoga, and when he goes into each of the 8 limbs and explains the 8 limbs, you'll notice that each of these limbs is incorporated in prayer, right? When we practice the 12 blessings, and constantly, but continuously practice it, or make it a regular practice in our daily lives, you'll notice that each of these limbs, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, concentration, contemplation, meditation, is employed to one degree or another. And as you develop in your spiritual practice, we incorporate these more and more, even outside of when we're, say, not sitting down to practice the 12 blessings. It becomes a part of us. But specifically, let's look at the practice of pranayama, which is a way of enhancing the flow of prana through the nadis, and thereby cleaning out the nadis and allowing for a merging of the physical and astral senses. It says here, it enhances pranic flow and increases mental activity. If we look at the nostrils, you have on the left side is Ida, is a flow of mental energies. And on the right is Pingala, the flow of vital energies. And where we have an intersection of Ida and Pingala, a vehicle of consciousness is formed for the soul's use. I think it's here, or maybe in the chakras. In the handouts, when Nehemiah depicts the flow of Ida and Pingala moving up Sushumna, you'll notice that Ida and Pingala, those 2 nadis, intersect at each of the 7 major, well, actually the 6 major centers going up to the spine. They terminate at the Christ center. And remember in the chakra diagrams, Nehemiah talks about the petals. So this is what he means there, not just Ida and Pingala, but we're focusing on Ida and Pingala now, but where those nadis intersect, we have a a vehicle of consciousness is formed. The increased flow of vital and mental energies creates a greater presence and manifestation of the potential of man's consciousness. And so as we increase through our pranayama practices, we're increasing the flow of vital and mental energies throughout the nadis, and thereby allowing a greater and clearer expression of consciousness to manifest in the potential of men. So in the text, contact your higher self through yoga. Dr. George King gives several pranayama techniques, actually a full pranayama system that is safe and balanced, that everyone can practice to accomplish this goal of increasing the flow of vital and mental energies throughout the nadic system, or throughout the aura, if you will. And the contents of that text is also included in the book Realize Your Inner Potential. And I believe there's a new edition of that titled King Yoga, Realize Your Inner Potential, where those practices are included. I didn't contact your higher self through yoga. There's also a water charging practice that's given that's very beneficial, which increases the concentration of prana within the water, charges the water to increase the concentration of prana within it, and therefore you're doing the pranayama practices to increase the flow of vital and mental energies through your breath, and you're also doing the water and charging practices to increase the concentration of prana within the water. So in the 2 of the 3 main ways that we take prana into our body, through our breath, through liquid, and through solid foods, in those 2 ways, we are given methods to increase the flow of vital mental energy within the auric structure in that text. And then we're also taught a practice on how to bless and charge our food. It's also given by Dr. George King. I don't think it's in that book, but I think it's in the Practices of Theorists, where we're given the practice of blessing our food. So in those 3 ways, we are enhancing and raising the concentration of prana in the 3 main ways that we take prana into our physical and astral being in our auras. So those practices are worth checking out and incorporating into our daily lives. Now, in pranayama, it is not just the breath work and the counting of the breath, but it is also important to incorporate the visualization practice or aspect of it. And visualization is the human ability to use imagination. It gives him the power to create mental images out of subtle energies, to initiate patterns and pathways for energies to flow in order to bring about certain results. Visualization, this component of imagination, has the power to sustain the patterns and pathways of the mental images created, which further serve to increase the flow of energies needed to enhance conscious awareness of the images. What is the name of this book? So what I have up right now, Adam, is not a book. It's actually a diagram put together by Mr. Nehemiah Davis to go into a bit more detail of the psychic development and specifically the merging together of the physical and astral senses. Now, there's also a lecture series that we have, a lecture series on psychic development that Nehemiah gave, where he put together a PowerPoint presentation, which goes into even more detail about it, about the subject matter. You can go back and look at our previous classes about that. But the books that I mentioned that are available from the Aether Society are let's realize your potential. I'm going to put on the screen really quick. And contact your higher self, the yoga. I don't know if contact your higher self, the yoga is still available, but let me confirm that first. Yes, okay. Contact your higher self, the yoga is still available on the Aether Society website. So let me switch to that. Give me 1 second. So Demaya was just talking about this a few minutes ago. This is a booklet, about 30 pages, written by Dr. George King, where he goes into the water charging practice. And I believe the new moon fasting and full moon feasting practice is given in this book as well. I'm not completely sure. It might be in this text as well. Well, the water charging practice is here, and the pranayama techniques, along with, it gives a mudra as well that we can use in our pranayama practices. It's in this text on the Aether Society website. And there is also the Realize Your Inner Potential, which includes the pranayama practices as well as other practices, kind of a collection of practices. It's given by Dr. George King. It's written by Reverend Richard Lawrence. You get to pick up this book as well. This book also comes with a CD or DVD. And in that DVD, the practices are demonstrated. The pranayama techniques are demonstrated. The prayer technique is demonstrated. And it's a visualization that's given where it's depicted as well in the DVD. So you can pick it up also.
Richard Lawrence make a point to say that he didn't write that book.
Oh, right.
So he just made a point, I think last week on that too, that he assisted, he didn't write it. Dr. George King actually, he was instructed by Dr. George King. He used his words.
All right, so Adam, that's the text I was referring to. We have several lectures as well that you can go back and look at our previous videos or playlists. And like I also mentioned the PowerPoint presentation that Nehemiah put together to go along with the series on psychic development and the merging of the senses as well. So we're briefly touching it today and over the next couple of days. We may revisit that series at another time. So let's look at this box here on the right-hand side. Mental concentration practices. This is a constant and sustained practice of thought being directed down one channel of thought without interruption. Example of this can be seen in the instructions given in pranayama methods, where the student is told when inhaling the breath to imagine that you are taking the prana off of every breath and pushing it down both sides of the spinal column and back up the inner channel of the spinal column up to and out the middle of your forehead, extending about 6 inches outside the breast, outside the forehead. Then repeating this hundreds of times within one sitting on a daily basis. So this is an example of, mentioned back to realizing the potential on the DVD. This is visually depicted in the on the DVD when they're going over the pranayama practices. We breathe in and we visualize we're pulling in the prana from outside into the body and pushing it down the spine on the left and the right hand side until it gets all the way down to the base, and then we take that prana, bring it down to the base during the inhalation, and then during the exhalation, we push that prana up the center of the spine, all the way up and out the Christ center, which is about 6 inches in front of the forehead. And what we're doing with this visualization, as Nehemiah has taught us, and Dr. George King has gone to lecture on it as well in his pranayama lectures, is that for thousands of years, we've pushed and moved the prana through the front of the body. And what we're doing with this pranayama practice is we're training ourselves and training our aura to move that prana the back of the body or up the spine, and in the proper way that it should flow, so that we can clear that channel and prepare ourselves to eventually get to the point where we can begin moving Kundalini up Sushumna. But again, for thousands and thousands of years, we've been moving prana through the front of the body, as the Theosophical Society calls it the glamour, the path of glamour. I think it was Alice Bailey and Vasquez who coined that term. But if you remember in the Bible, where that verse talks about is wide is the path, is the destruction, and many follow thereupon it, but narrow is the path that leadeth to salvation. Well, that's what's being referred to. Wide is the path, is the moving of the prana in the front of the body as the path of glamour. That is the path that leadeth to destruction, but narrow is the path, that narrow channel, that Sushumna, that Brahma Nadi, in which we want to move Kundalini up the spine. So this visualization example practice that Nehemiah is given here, and also given by Dr. George King in Contact Your Higher Self through Yoga, and depicted in Realizing Inner Potential, that's the goal, to begin training ourselves to undo those thousands and thousands of years in the improper movement of prana and Kundalini energy up the front of the body, and to bring it back to that narrow path within Sushumna, to move the prana and to breathe through the spine, so to speak. Is that correct, Nima?
Yeah, but I don't think he gives that in
No,
in the Contact Your Higher Self for Yoga, but in the Inner Potential, he gives it.
yeah,
And
the visualization.
on several lecture tapes, the visualization. On several lecture tapes, he gives it.
Yes.
But in the Contact Your Higher Self for Yoga, he doesn't give it.
Right, that's right. Okay. Any questions or comments? Okay. Now let's keep going.
Another thing should be mentioned here, which I'm sure you heard me mention over and over. I think Swami Sivananda goes into this a lot too, is the impurity trace.
Yes.
And the impurity trace is the reason why the Kundalini power that flows through the body as vital energy is trapped in the physical and astral body. It's because of those major 21 impurity traits. So when you in Raja Yoga and all the yogas, because Raja Yoga contains all the 12 major yogas, it teaches us to refrain. It puts restriction on the body and mind in order to restrain and move away from those impurity traits or actions that seems to make us trapped, have our consciousness trapped in the body. And through pranayama and prayer and mantra, those are the things that purify the body and get rid of the impurity traits or bring them under control, and to allow us to enter into a more mental and solid state or pure state of consciousness. And that's the whole goal of Raja Yoga, which leads to a full rise of Kundalini Yoga, because Raja Yoga is all the yogas.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay. I don't see any coming in. So I think we'll leave. Let's see. Let's see, we'll cover page 2 today. And now the keys for manipulating and increasing the flow of subtle energies from pranayama practices are as follows. Mental concentration, channeling all thoughts in one direction. Excuse me. Controlled imagination, shape the created thought form in one direction. Sustained visualization, sustaining singular thought and controlled imagination. 3 forms of mantra, voice, whisper, and thought, is calibrating the energy flows moving through the chakras with sustained mantra chanting. And the 3 types of mudra, hand, arms, and body, using mudra to seal, redirect, and redistribute subtle energies within the body. If you think about this in terms of energy, right? So in concentration, we're focusing the mind on a single subject or topic that we want to focus on. And in that focusing, in that channeling, we're not allowing any strenuous thoughts or grasshopping thoughts to come in or interrupt our focus, but it is solely on that one thing. You hear Dr. George King in several lectures talk about him being told by a master to sit down and focus on that keyhole, and when he can do that for 12 hours, he's beginning to concentrate. Or focusing on the scales of a flatfish, or things like that. In the Mystic Practices series, Mike gave us multiple concentration techniques that'll help us to focus and channel the mind. It's not as intense as sitting and staring at a keyhole, or even sitting and staring at a flame, which could be the flame practice. It could be dangerous or harmful if not done properly or with correct supervision. But you can send us an email, or you can go, actually, no, I don't think that Mystic Practices series is available. But you can send us an email, may be able to go into that with you. But the idea is to create that conduit where you're focusing on a single subject, or focusing all of your thought down a single direction. Right? All that mental energy is being focused and concentrated. And then in controlled imagination, you're forming and shaping that that thought that was pushed into a single direction into that thing that you were focusing upon. And then you sustain that visualization through that channel, through that singular thought and controlled imagination. So when we're practicing our pranayama, that's what we're doing. We're building up that concentration ability by focusing solely on the intake and movement of that pranic energy within our bodies through mental concentration, through controlled imagination and sustained visualization. And we also incorporate mantra and mudra. So if you look at the depiction of the practitioner here, you see that several mudras are actually incorporated. And at later levels, you can also be incorporating a mantra, or in Contact Your Higher Self yoga, we're given, would those be considered yantras or affirmations? I think affirmations. As we're doing the breathing, as we're holding or exhaling, we're given affirmations to repeat, both in the retention of breath and I think also in the exhalation of the breath as well. Questions? It says, and realize your inner potential. It says, breathe in and visualize the prana going over the top of the head. Is that with all practices?
Book and page, I don't remember. I know when you do that, but what is that specific? I don't know what that means. Chapter and page, I mean. Because the correct way is to bring the prana in and bring it up the spine and through the forehead, 6 inches in front of the forehead. Now, if they referring to something else, then need to go to the specific page, chapter and page.
It says, in the first breathing, page 191. 191. Oh, realizing the potential. Sorry, I was thinking something else. I don't have it.
You have the book on you because I'm in my office.
Yeah, I'm in Naples right now. I don't have anything on me. It's my computer. I don't have a PDF version, the digital version of it.
Yeah, the first practice is a rhythmic breath practice where you learn to even the breath. You breathe in for so many counts and you breathe out for so many counts, and you regulate the breath. That's what any pranayama system, that will be the first breath, to bring about rhythmic breathing by even the number of breath you bring in and the number of breath you take out for that period of time. So now the visualization, and with Dr. George King's practice, he doesn't recommend the visualization on the first breath until you almost master that first breath. So he did recommend chanting mantra and then move into visualization. But still, when you direct the energy, you just don't send the energy out the top of the head or over the head, to my understanding.
Yeah. Unless they mean you breathe in and visualize it going into the nostrils, over the top of the head and down the spine.
Yeah, but in the first breath,
Not the first breath, yeah.
yeah, the first breath he didn't until you gain control over that, until you become good at the rhythmic breathing. Because in the beginning you want to, in fact, he actually say practice this for 14, at least 14 days or nights before you before you introduce another technique of breathing.
Right.
At least 14 days.
Yeah, 14 days.
So I would have to look at that document. Ask me next week, I'll look at it and read it or whatever. But it doesn't make sense that they would give a visualization for that practice unless they tell you what I just told you.
Question here, it seems like in order to practice correct breathing, you need concentration and a specific visualization. Can we reach a level of correct breathing subconsciously without a point of focus? Maybe from just a healthy standpoint, is it safe to have the pranayama move up and down the spine during our everyday lives?
Prana naturally moves up and down the spine. But just like any level of energy, it's driven away or sucked up by all different type of activity. If you tuck a slingshot and you tuck that slingshot and hit it into the open air, that the force that you put behind that slingshot is only going to go so far. When the wind gets strong enough and the force dies off, then that object is going to go with the wind. The same thing inside your body. If you and that's where the impurity traits come in at, and that's why we have to clear the nadis. Is Dr. George King gave us techniques and even devices in order to help clear the nadis. So what needs to happen is that you need to develop your concentration in order to give your thoughts, in order to put enough vital energy behind the thoughts. Because your thought, the mental energy, mind energy, mold and shape energies and matter. And if you gain control over the mind strong enough, you can put enough energy behind any thought or any matter to allow it to do anything. But until you do that, until you develop the ability to concentrate and contemplate and eventually meditate, you will not be able to amass that energy, the energy within the body, and mold it and shape it into where you want it to go. So that's why you have pranayama, raja yoga, and all these things in order to clear out, to clean the nadis up, and don't allow these magnetic type of impurity traits that lead us down the wrong road and have us doing the wrong things. And those impurity traits are like fear, malice, lust. All these things burn up our energy and direct us in the wrong way. But when we get rid of anger and malice and all these different impurity traits, then we have a free flow of mind energy and vital energy. So you breathe, every time you breathe, your breath is directed by mind. But what type of mind is it directed by? And that's the question you need to ask.
And also, Charlie, your question, can we reach a level of correct breathing subconsciously? In the science of breath, And in previous lectures, Nehemiah has told us that that complete breath, or that first breathing in contact to higher self through yoga, is the proper way to breathe. It is using, like most of us, we take shallow breaths, or what they call high, mid, and low. And the science of breath is high, mid, and low, where high breath is we're just breathing with the chest and a very shallow breathing. Mid is the further down in the upper abdomen, and low breath is, or full breath is when we're breathing with the full diaphragm. And it's where we bring the air all the way from the chest and extend the abdomen and the diaphragm. So we get taking a full, complete breath of one measure, and then we exhale, a complete exhale, expelling all the breath in equal measure to the inhale, and that was the complete breath. I taught before that is actually the way we should be breathing all the time. So continually practice the first breathing with a complete breath to the point where it becomes subconsciously active, and that we're breathing like that all the time. That's the goal.
Yeah, you want it to be a natural thing. You want to create a momentum where you train the body to breathe like that. Eventually, what will happen is you will begin to breathe like that off and on during the day, or when the body needs more energy, and then eventually you'll begin to have an increase of breath. The longer breath you take, and the longer exhale, the better you are. The better you are. If you study animals, the animals that live a long time, they take long breaths, and they breathe short, or short number of times within a minute. And you can go and look that up on an elephant. An elephant lives for a long time, but their breath is very long. The intake of breath is very long. The outtake is very long. The output is very long. The inhale, exhale, and they live for a long time. And you can find that with those animals that live long. You will find that the elephant, the turtle, I think even the ape. So that's another just bit of trivial science that you can go and study to see.
Any other questions, comments? Let's see. We should stop here anymore and move on to the second page.
It's up to you. If they want to stop, we can stop. What is the second page? Let me see the second page.
The second page is actually, no, we can say, because I want to go into these last four here. And you can explain why you have them. I have an idea of why, but I can explain why you have them grayed out here on the senses that exist on astroetheric sections here. So we'll save that for next time.
Yeah, we can pull up the impurity traits on the next time.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. This diagram, the nadis and the senses of man should be in the Google Drive shared folder. So do download it, take a look at it. and jot down any questions or comments or things that you notice or things that you don't notice and would like to ask why it's not depicted or what have you. And we will look at that next time. I want to say next week, but I'm not sure where I will be next week. So next time, hopefully I'll be able to be in a position where I can host next week, and we'll be able to continue our regular Sunday discussions throughout this year. So do we have any final questions, comments? Do send us an email to express your interest in joining our weekly 12 blessings prayer circle on Thursdays. I'll add you to that list. And also, if you are interested in learning more about spiritual healing, remote spiritual healing, and joining our healing team, I would like to start building a list of interest for that as well, so we can potentially have a weekly healing circle as well. Any final questions, comments? If not, let us close out today's session with the reciting of the New Lord's Prayer as given by the Master, well, with slight changes, Master Jesus through the mediumship of Dr. George King. Everyone see that? Yeah, I think so. Okay. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your kind attendance and questions and participation. Do review those handouts, and again, send us an email, any further questions or comments you may have. We look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful week and happy 2022.
All right, Happy New Year, everyone.